Hello, everyone. Welcome to Latino Leads event. We are going to be focusing our conversation on small businesses. But before we get started, I just wanted to again, share. Thank you for being in this event. Welcome, and we want to say that we really feel that in the past few months it's been a really tough time for all of us. We're all going through so much. And in the past 2 weeks, it's definitely been really hard for all of our communities. And we want to begin by sharing that we are in solidarity for justice for Mr. Floyd, his family, and our Black brothers and sisters. And that that we come with a heavy heart today. But I know folks are wanting to have conversations about how we can be in community, and we hope that this space provides that for all of you. And we want to make sure that we are here to hear what you have to say, to answer questions that you currently have, to give resources as things are changing. Every single hour of the day, we want to make sure that we provide you with information that is up to date and the information that we currently have. But again, we want to really share that this is a really tough week, and we as a Latino community stand together again in solidarity with our Afro-Latinos, with our Black brothers and sisters, with our African-American community, and that we are feeling the pain and know that we are here with all of you during this time. And with that, I want to welcome folks to this conversation. We will, again, my name is Irma Marquez Trapero. I'm the Executive Director of Latino Lead, and I have wonderful Latinx leaders here with us. We are a network of Latinx leaders, and our goal is to empower our community to have social impact in Minnesota, and to ultimately define policies for our community in collaboration and in solidarity with other communities as well. I want to share that with us today we have Melissa Silva. She is the CEO of El Burrito Mercado. Fabio Tenorio, Executive Director at Latino Chamber of Commerce of Minnesota. Monica Romero, Small Business Community Liaison with the City of Minneapolis, and Inti Martinez Aleman. He is an attorney at Ceiba Forte and a member of the Minnesota Hispanic Bar Association. So welcome you all to this space. I'll start by kicking it over to our first panelist, Melissa. Melissa, your family has been serving our community since 1979. As a family and business owner, I'm assuming you have experienced many ups and downs over the past 40 years. And I know that also in the past 2 weeks. How has this impacted first you as a Latinx leader here, as a business owner, and as a part of a community? And what have you seen Latinx business owners having to shift during this time?
Well, thank you first of all, Irma, for inviting me to participate in this important conversation. Thank you, all of you that are here joining us. That just means a lot. I think this conversation is important and probably overdue, but we still have a long way. So any conversations we can have, even starting now, will be helpful. I'm going to start with my focus on COVID, which kind of initiated this or prompted the panel discussion. It's been really difficult. It's been extremely challenging as an individual, as a daughter of aging parents who have vulnerable health issues, and also just because of their age, because of their demographic. And then also very concerned about, I work with my sister and my niece who are mothers and have young children at home. I worry about our 80 plus employees, same thing, a lot of them with health issues, daycare issues, all the challenges that I'm sure you're all hearing from the different families. And so, and then of course our community, our employees, or I'm sorry, our customers here in St. Paul on the West Side and from all over. So making decisions on, for us always starts with kind of like our health, because if we're not healthy, how do we continue to lead the business? How do we continue to be there for our employees and at the same time actually be present and be here for them, without getting COVID-19, or maybe we've already had it, I don't know. But managing that piece and trying to make decisions has been really challenging. A lot of people don't like it. A lot of people haven't liked the implementations we've had to put in place to protect that, whether it's been reducing store hours or restaurant hours, whether it's been because, well, now we're requiring masks, um, limiting the amount of people that can come in. And for our culture, especially on the weekends, Latino families come to El Burrito as an experience, as part of our culture, as part of their everyday living. And it's been really challenging to have to, when they come to the door with the family and say, solamente dos o tres personas, only 2 or 3 people can come in at a time, and people have been upset. So trying to and we're and I try and explain it in a way that we're doing this for your own good. Like, this isn't because we don't want you here. It's because we're trying to control a crowd, and we're trying to educate. And having to close the restaurants has affected almost 50% of our sales. We were fortunate and have a great relationship with our bank, which is a community bank, Western Bank. And we're very grateful that they, from the moment this started, reaching out to us and letting us know of resources and about the different grants and loans. And so I think that those of you, if there's anyone on here that are working with organizations, or whether you're an organization that helps small businesses or related to a bank, to make sure you're reaching out to small businesses. That was really helpful for us, and they were constantly on the phone with us, answering our questions, really pretty much holding our hand through that process. And I'm so grateful because it changed probably within the first 5 days that they opened up for the applications. It kept changing. So like I said, we were fortunate to get that PPP loan. If we had not gotten it, I can't even, to be honest, I don't know what we'd be doing right now. I don't know how we'd be making ends meet. I know we'd be operating under very different circumstances. I did have to close our restaurant location in Minneapolis. It was just too new of a business, didn't have strong enough roots to be able to handle the closure and all the limitations, and we just couldn't make it there. So those are, I would say, challenges we're facing right now. Are still, it would be really nice to have more resources, and maybe they're out there, I'm just not aware of them, that are bilingual and that we can share. It would be nice to have videos that we can share, tutorials, stuff that we're giving that we could hand out to families to explain why it's so important to wear a mask. I just feel like we need to, I've been posting about it almost every day on our social media. Some people like it, some people don't. And at the end of the day, for me, it's become about the health of our community, especially being a demographic that's so highly impacted by it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Melissa, for shedding light on what has been happening on a real way for you and your family and your business, and also the impact of our community, right? I think we are still in a pandemic, and we need to make sure that we are, definitely taking care of ourselves, the customers, and our family members as much as we can. So thank you so much for sharing your perspective about the struggles, but also I know the many things that you all as a team are doing to ensure that you're thriving, but also thinking and taking your community with you. I'm gonna shift here a little bit with Fabio from the Latino Chamber. Fabio, what have you found as you have spoken to Latinx business owners at this time? What are the certain needs, and what is the Latino Chamber providing Latinx businesses at this time that might be helpful for any business owners on the call right now to know about, as it relates to COVID, but also through the tragedy that a lot of our communities are experiencing over the past two weeks.
Good morning. Thank you, Irma. As Irma said, my name is Fabio Tenorio. I'm the Executive Director of the Latino Chamber of Commerce. Our vision as the Chamber of Commerce is to contribute to the growth and economic prosperity of the Latinos in Minnesota. And as that, we have, and after talking to some of our members, we have found a few things. Basically, I want to touch on three basic things. One, we have about 9,000 Latino businesses in the states of Minnesota, and they're all struggling to survive. They are in the metro area, but not only here in the metro area, but also in greater Minnesota, Wilmer, Worthington, and some other areas outside the metro area. All of them, believe me, they're suffering. And the most impacted industries are in the retail, construction, and the service industry. Hotels, let's talk about hotels, builders, restaurants are very, have been impacted really, really badly. Supermarkets and some other stores. And what happens is, like, these businesses, as anybody else, we were not prepared for these two things, these two events that we're going through. The COVID-19 first, and second, this civil unrest, if you want to call it that way. Nobody was ready for any of that stuff. A lot of these small businesses, Latino businesses, were dying after 3 months of the COVID-19. One, for the lack of revenue. Second, because they have to pay for their operational expenses. They have to pay for rent, they have to pay for utilities. That didn't stop, right? And then on the other side, they also, a lot of them were not able to keep their employees. But in the middle of all this commotion, there was help, right? And at some point, there was federal, state, and local communities and local government resources available for everybody. But initially, all this information, as Melissa was saying, it was a lot of information coming from everywhere. And all the information was changing by the hour, it was changing by the day, the due dates were changing. It was confusing, it was sometimes even very, very confusing for some people. Beyond that, even though there were a lot of help, a lot of support, most of the Latino businesses that applied really did not get the assistance they applied for. Why? Because we find, again, after having some conversations with a lot of our members, a lot of them were not ready with their bookkeeping. A lot of them were behind in tax reporting. A lot of them, they use employees, but they treat them as independent contractors. So they were having a little situation with that. They were missing the due dates because at some point, some people were saying this date, and then no, let's change it to this other date. So those due dates were changing. And in the last event, we find that we're finding that some businesses don't have enough coverage, insurance coverage, or they don't have coverage at all. So those are the things that we've been finding after conversations with our members. One thing that I can see is that we have many Latino organizations in this area, and we are all trying to work together. That's one of the things that is happening at the same time of this commotion, that Latino Lead, LEDC, even the Small Business Administration, the Department of Administration in Minnesota. There's so many organizations that before we've been in Latino organizations too, even CLUES, before we were operating by our own, right? But with these events, we're trying to put work together and put resources together. In our website, in the Chamber of Commerce, we put information from LEDC. We put we post some of the information from Latino Lead. So we're trying to work a little bit together here to help our Latino businesses. And that's kind of what we're finding, right? Overall, what we are providing as the Latino Chamber of Commerce, we're trying to provide a direct connection to resources. How? We created a weekly newsletter. Now it's bi-weekly because things are not changing that much anymore, where we have very specific links to financial and operation resources. And again, we're putting links from the Small Business Administration, from LEDC, wherever the resources are coming from. We are just partnering with all these organizations and just putting the information in front of the business owners. We're providing also business and operational support. Remember that I told you that there was a lot of the business not ready in terms of accounting, bookkeeping. So we put together a series of seminars that should be covering QuickBooks, which is an accounting platform. So business owners can be a little more prepared on that sense. One more thing, we're waiving membership fees for the Latino Chamber of Commerce. We're waiving that for the 2020, and we're hoping that at least provide a little bit of help and exposure to our business owners. With the membership, the business owners, what they have, if they don't have any internet presence, we have a business directory, and we provide a small web page. If they don't have any business presence, that will help a lot. So business owners can connect with their customers and other businesses around, and they can share what they have to sell, their products, their services, right? We have an event calendar. For example, we have several realtors as members. And if they have an open house, they can post it in there and people can find out about that. If there is a restaurant trying to promote something, they can put an event in the calendar, and we can post and we can all look or see that there is an event happening at this time, at in this location. So that's the event calendar. And the last piece on the website that we offer is job postings. In this moment, there is a need for workforce. If anybody needs a waitress, a waiter, cashier, construction worker, painters, whoever they need for whatever, for their own businesses, they can post that in there, and we can that way we can find that workforce and provide a source to go and look for it. The last one piece that I want to touch is that as Latino Chamber of Commerce, we're trying to provide representation. And I think not only us as Chamber, but Latino Lead, but LEDC, all these Latino organizations, we're getting together. And in fact, last night, Irma and I were working on a letter and a petition for the local government to provide some funding for what's happening for Lake Street. So representation is very, very big for us. And if we're together, we are big. But if we are alone, we are individuals. We can be just maybe a social security number or an IT number. Individually, we're small. Together, we can be big and have a bigger impact. So with that, Irma.
Thank you so much, Fabio, for sharing all of the different resources that the Latino Chamber has done. And again, folks, the membership fees have been waived for 2020. So if you want to make sure that you are in a hub that provides resources or being in the know of what's going on as a business owner, I highly encourage all of you to make sure that you visit the Latino Chamber of Commerce website to get more information. And Fabio, if you don't mind putting that link on the chat, that would be great so that folks can know where to go. You mentioned something that I think a lot of our Latinx business owners are talking about. As we have found out, some of the damage of that was caused by the demonstrations of last week, we have found out and we have heard that some insurance plans do not cover that. And I have a question for Inti about that. Can you tell us, Inti, what does that mean specifically? What is the best way to go about getting a lawyer to help with some insurance claims? And what happens if overall, like I mentioned, insurance doesn't cover that damage?
Mhm. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for this invite. As of yesterday, I wasn't supposed to be here, but thankfully, Irma reached out, and so had to pivot and change some things, but I was able to accommodate this. So thank you. Before anything and addressing your question, just a few comments. Melissa, your mom, Doña Maria, was one of the first persons I met here in Minnesota. And so tell her I say hi. She doesn't remember. Anyway, second thing, still related to Melissa, Western Bank is my bank and totally love Western Bank because it's local, small. And yes, that helps a ton. And when it's local and small for all those applications, for PPP and whatnot. Go to Wells Fargo, to US Bank, Bank of America. They don't care about small business, so like generally speaking. So that's been my experience too with my clients. Next, I wanted to tell you that I will give you legal information, but can't give legal advice. But I'd be glad to answer general questions like Irma just asked. And one thing that a Minnesota Hispanic Bar member asked me is that she's an attorney as well. And one of her clients, a business client, wants to donate tools and materials to rebuild damaged property. So if you're interested, if you need tools and materials to rebuild your damaged property, let me know. I'll connect you with my colleague, and then you can see if you get these tools and materials. So yeah, to answer your questions, Irma, insurance very messed up as world. One of my professors in law school said that insurance defense lawyers have a special place in hell, and I thought she was being mean about it. But once I went to a networking event in which it was all insurance defense lawyers as a student, and I told a couple of them that, and they just started laughing and they say, yeah, that's essentially true. So specifically to answer your question, coverage is very tricky. And I speak from personal experience and experience of many of my clients. As most of you or many of you know, I do business and litigation, civil litigation, and employment litigation. So anything related to assets, businesses, and jobs. So I see this all the time. And personal experience, every time I renew my policies, I review them. So I was just reading the one that just came renewed last month. And it essentially said, I'll cover you for these 10 things, but there are 100 exceptions and exclusions and all these endorsements. So a 100-page document that I had to read to understand. And I wrote to my broker and I said, there's no coverage. Like if my office burns down, like I will not be covered. And this same thing happens to many of my clients, business clients. So reviewing your policy, your endorsements, and the exclusions, that's super important. Because many times people say, oh, I got $2 million of coverage. Yeah, right. But you haven't read the exclusions. You haven't read the endorsements. And you don't even know if this type of insurance actually will cover this type of claim. So the amount doesn't really matter, or is not determinative, I should say. So something that's important and beforehand is using a broker, insurance broker versus an insurance agent. So insurance broker doesn't work for an insurance company. They work for themselves. They own or are a broker, have a brokerage firm. While an agent works for insurance company. So according to the law, the broker has a fiduciary duty to the customer or the client. And that's the highest level of duties that anybody can have, like a lawyer, like a doctor. But the agent works for the company and therefore is only it only has duties to the employer, to that company. So they might be your buddy, your friend, your cousin, whatever, but they have no loyalty to the customer. And that's what the law says. Sure, maybe from a business practice, it's good to be a good business owner and pay the claim, but from a legal standpoint, they don't have any loyalty, and unlike a brokerage. So so what if there's a denial of claim? First, review with an attorney, and I'll tell you more about that in a minute, how to get one or find one. Once you do that, and assuming there's no coverage, then you can do one of two things. So Minnesota has a law called bad faith insurance law, and that's the generic term. There's no law that's called that, but that's the generic term, bad faith insurance law. And so it has to do with insurance companies cannot deny claims when those claims and when those denials are done in bad faith. And the good thing about that law is that if the insurance company loses, they pay your attorney's fees and your costs, and plus the claim itself. The bad thing about that law is that two bad things about that law, and it's not so much about the law, but the market, the legal market. One is that very few lawyers practice that type of law. Very few, like 2, 3, 4, maybe, firms in town that do that. But exclusively, I can't think of one lawyer who does that type of law exclusively. And the other thing is that the lawyers who work on those cases take those cases primarily on contingency. So that means they won't charge you unless they recover, because there is that fee shifting provision that the loser pays the attorney's fees, right? And so what happens is that the small business who wants to get a lawyer on bad faith law has to have a really, really good case before that lawyer takes on that case. The other option is say, okay, lawyer, I'll pay you your fee. Yeah, I'll pay you your hourly wage, but we're talking about $200, $300, $400 an hour, and that adds up. Before you know, you have a lawyer bill for $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, and there are no results. Like, if you could lose, and you could end up paying the insurance company's fees. So that's the private action. That's like if you want to hire a private lawyer, and I'll talk about that in a second. But the other option is going to the Department of Commerce. The Department of Commerce regulates insurance brokers, insurance agents, and insurance companies. So probably one complaint against a company won't do it. But if you have numerous complaints, 2 or more of the same fact pattern, denial, all these endorsements that are messed up, like mine. I think mine is a messed up one, and I'm addressing it privately, and we'll get that fixed because it's messed up. How can you tell me in the quotes you're going to cover all these 10 things, but once you issue the policy, all those 10 things are worthless? So sure, $2 million coverage, but it's worthless. So yeah, Department of Commerce, they take complaints, and they have some of the best investigators in the states and some of the best prosecution powers in the state. Obviously, they work with the Attorney General and federal, state. So yeah, those two things: private action through a lawyer, or Department of Commerce if you want to go the public route. But again, you need more than just that one complaint usually. So how to get a lawyer? There are 3 general ways, I think, maybe 4. One is through the bar association. So, for example, statewide, you have the Minnesota State Bar Association, and they have a directory. So if you go to the Minnesota State Bar Association website, you're going to find a directory. Do your search there. What are you looking for? What kind of lawyer? What location? What area of law? The other is the district bar associations, like Hennepin County Bar Association, the Ramsey County Bar Association. They both have attorney referral services. That means you call them and you tell them, this is my problem, and they are not lawyers. The receptionists are not lawyers, but they will refer you to an attorney, usually for a small fee. And then a third way is Google. Yeah. So I don't need to tell you how to do that. And fourth, I can mention, besides my law firm, I think there are at least these are the only other attorneys who I know do some business law or business related law. Very minimally, unlike me, I do exclusively that. But these attorneys, Marcos Ramirez, Alex Trevino, Veronica Walther, Edwin Goss, and they all speak Spanish. They're Hispanic lawyers, and they practice some business law, so they could help. And obviously, like I mentioned, my law firm as well. I'm open to any questions.
Thank you so much, Iti, for providing that information. If you could please share those names for folks to have in case that they do want to get a lawyer at this time when it comes to insurance claims, that would be great to put it on the chat. And we will be moving on to a question from Monica.
Irma, one last thing. I forgot. Please, sorry. One last thing. Anything you do, please do not consult about these matters with the following types of individuals: accountants, notarios, real estate agents, insurance agents. Why? Because they're not licensed to practice law. And so they cannot give you legal advice. So sure, an accountant may know a ton about bookkeeping and about the IRS regulations and whatnot. Notarios might know a thing or two about the law. Real estate agents might know a ton about the real estate market and how to structure organizations, entities, business entities. Insurance agents might know a ton about insurance claims, policies, and so on, but they cannot give you legal advice. So they don't have any duties to you, unlike a lawyer, and there's fiduciary duties. If we mess up as lawyers, you can tap into our insurance for messing up. While you have no idea how many clients I have to go and fix their problems. They lose their homes, their businesses, because they get advice from accountants, notarios, real estate agents, and insurance agents who mess up their organization and their company. And then I have to go to court and undo all that mess. And that's expensive.
Thank you so much. And again, this is for all matters where you do need an attorney when it comes to insurance, immigration. The best folks to give advice is an attorney for those cases. So thank you, Inti, again. Seeing a few questions come, and I promise we will get to them as soon as we are done with our last amazing panelist, Monica. You work for the city of Minneapolis. I know that you all have been doing amazing work to try to get support for businesses, first for COVID, but what are some things that you can share that are happening now? And this is a statistic that I was able to find nationwide. We've heard a lot about the aid available to businesses. As we know, the federal government is trying to mitigate the damage business owners are experiencing, but according to Federal Reserve, about 46% of white business owners can access bank financing, compared to only 34% in Latinx business for Latinx business owners. What are the things that the city of Minneapolis is currently doing that you can share that would provide more resources for communities of color during this time? And anything else that you have been hearing that is the most up-to-date information from the city of Minneapolis would be great.
Thank you very much, Irma. And thank you everybody for attending. It's my, I feel tons of responsibility for answering and being here in front of you. My very humbling, I'm gonna try to answer all questions, but know that today things change every day and overnight. I do like to be, and I hope I don't forget, but I like to address that question of what we're doing to rebuild the area that has been most damaged. But going back to your question, to begin with everybody, I hope this is the beginning of building a relationship. So please take my email and keep it handy. Any question, any invitation, please remember that the Small Business Team Dev office that I work for, the city of Minneapolis, is here to support. I'm going to start with why I came to the city of Minneapolis after being about 17 years as a economic development practitioner or business consultant in different nonprofit organizations. The city of Minneapolis has a serious intention to reduce the racial disparity in the city of Minneapolis, and especially in that disparity is reflected in new immigrant population that are business owners. So one of the reasons that the position exists, which is new, it's about 3 years old, the Office of a Small Business Team, is my position as Small Business Community Liaison. And I also had my personal goal of joining a team that truly wanted to provide assistance in an equity manner to small businesses and new immigrants. Saying so, the small business team within the Community Planning and Economic Development has a program called BTAP, Business Technical Assistance Program. That program itself provides monetary contribution to up to about 20 business organizations that are private nonprofits, and they get funding from all different sources, not only the city, not whatsoever. And these organizations do have our support so they can support businesses. For the COVID-19 emergency, the city allocated a different money and said to business organizations, do you have a plan to work with businesses to recover or to plan for reopening? And then the ones that said, yes, we do have a plan to support them, we allocated additional money for that. The city has made available a COVID-19 preparedness plan, which every business by now should have had in writing, especially if they're planning to reopen. And this is a guidance that we received from the governor. The city has adopted some policies and have included some additional restrictions or flexibilities on the guidance from the governor. There are a special group of businesses that are personal care, like food related or barbershops, hair salons, tattoos, massage. Those businesses are in a special category because the contact is very direct. So for those businesses, the city also adopted guidance from the governor and has in our website specific guidance in different languages, by the way, in how to reopen businesses that are on personal care. And because of the situation last week and so many buildings, commercial property being damaged, the city also worked out a document that lays out specific suggestions that the city is asking building owners to go through. And to begin with is safety first. I can either link the sites of what I mentioned on this chat, or you can send me an email and ask me which one you want me to send you to be more precise, or within the questions I can talk about bullet points of each of the specific either preparedness plans for any type of business, preparedness plan for reopening, preparedness plan for opening businesses of personal care, or building precautions. So those are three, I guess, main points that are important to take into account in this topic. But also BTAP organizations, I just wanted to mention that there are about 20, as I said, and there are 5 of those organizations that we know have staff that are bilingual in Spanish and English, and those are Miluska Novota, attorney, Latino Economic Development Center, LEDC, Neighborhood Development Center, NDC, Seward Redesign, and Lake Street Council. Lake Street Council, it's an organization that takes care of highlighting businesses on Lake Street, but also 4 blocks north and 4 blocks south. And I think somebody has put it on the chat, the link for Lake Street Council fund that will go towards the businesses that have been damaged. I just wanted to share with you that that fund existed before the situations last week. By the way, it went live on the Friday before we lost George Floyd, and it was up. So the Lake Street Council and everybody that donates helped businesses through COVID-19, and they started with about $300,000. With the incident that we lost George Floyd, that fund goes beyond $4 million. So it is an organization that I have known for many years, probably since I started as a economic development practitioner, and they are forming a group to make the guidelines from the community. So yeah, wanted to share that. That's the 5th organization that we know have staff, bilingual staff. Thank you, Irma. Any other question? I can expand on the resources from the city.
Thank you, Monica, Melissa, Fabio, and Inti for all of the stories, all of the information, for putting in the chat the resources that folks are really wanting and asking for. Now we are going to turn it over to our Q&A session, and I'll turn it over to Edsel, who is our board member. Edsel, what are some questions that we are getting from folks?
Yeah, thank you, Irma. Thanks to everybody. So we have a number of questions here. I will start with Sheila's questions earlier on. And her question was, give me one second as I'm reading through some of the comments. So following up on Melissa's questions, are there any emotional support resources available?
Not sure who wants to take that one on.
Hi, this is Andrea from Food Clinic. I'm not sure if you guys are aware, Community University Healthcare Center. We're at Franklin and Bloomington, and we have a team of 5 therapists. 2 are Spanish speaking, and they are open for seeing new patients, and they have been doing virtual visits, telemedicine visits, to support the community with what's going on with COVID, but also with the tragedies that have happened since George Floyd's murder, and just the unrest in the community and fear, which is completely understandable. So it's not a lot of resources, but if you guys want to call the main line at Coop Clinic, that's one way to get mental health support. We also have psychiatrists on site, and we have Spanish-speaking, 2 Spanish-speaking interpreters that also can help with translating psych visits.
Thank you so much, Andrea, for providing that information. If you don't mind sharing the clinic's phone number on the chat, that would be great. And know that this conversation has been recorded, it is currently being recorded, and we will send it out to all of you tomorrow with some of the resources that we talked about today. It said, what is another question that's on the chat?
Yeah, thank you, Irma, and thanks for the response there. Any other resources, please put them in the chat. The other question we have here is, are there any attorneys specialized in some topics related to business and COVID? Individuals might be offended if they need to or are required to need masks to enter a certain building. Can a business be accused of discrimination if they are requiring that? Perhaps for our lawyer, that would be a good question to get some thoughts on.
Yeah, so there are very specific executive orders addressing this issue. And so they give a lot of leeway to businesses to do what they can in order to mitigate damages or reduce exposure. Discrimination, that wouldn't be a good defense or a good accusation for someone who feels offended. They might not like it, but businesses have a lot of leeway, especially because they're private, you know, unlike a government building. But interestingly, government buildings have even government buildings have some leeway according to these executive orders. So, let alone a private entity. So, I can leave it at that. I think there's a lot of flexibility, but you have to follow some guidelines, obviously.
Perfect. Thank you so much. What I'm seeing is a whole lot of comments here, some fantastic resources, great thoughts regarding perhaps a workshop for small business owners would be helpful. It's certainly something that we can take away. I'm not seeing any other questions. My apologies if I'm missing anything in here. Just one came in. So I know several individuals who might be interested in becoming involved in local politics and boards for the city or organization. Does anyone have tips of where to start? And if there's a list of opportunities out there? Fabulous question. So I'll start by saying, comment, if anybody is interested in discussing joining the board for Latino Lead, feel free to reach out to myself or Irma. Does anybody else out there have any thoughts, comments on anybody who wants to get involved in community work?
Could you repeat the question again, please?
Yeah, certainly.
The last question that it was asking for resources?
Yep. So for individuals who are interested in becoming involved in local politics and boards or city, for the city and organization, does anybody have tips of where to start?
Oh, I see.
I can take that on, but please, folks in the conversation right now, feel free to add in. We need more Latinx and folks of color representation in all levels. I think I would start by narrowing down what it is that you want to support, what expertise you currently have, and really dig into the different organizations that are doing that work and ask if there are any vacancies on boards. And I think really it's important to make sure that you seek out the information about what it is that you want to do. If you have any specific questions about that, our goal at Latino Lead is to ensure that there is Latinx representation on different boards, and really the ultimate goal is to have more politicians that look like us and that really truly represent us. I think yesterday was the last day where folks could nominate themselves for some vacancies, and so if you are really passionate about getting involved in that way, please do reach out to me. There are also many different programs, right? Like if it's politics, what you want to get into, there are development programs available specifically for people of color that train you to be on different commissioner seats, that train you to be on different boards, so that you are not only so that you're not, deer in the headlights without any knowledge about what it actually means to be in those seats. So if you do have any more specific questions about what it is that you are interested in, please do reach out to me, and I will include my email in the chat in a little bit. And thank you so much for that question. I think in these times, it's really important that we see ourselves as active members of our communities, because we can make decisions, we can make choices that benefit and that ultimately change the systems around us. And that is really what it is that we need to do during these times. We can't go back to the normal status quo. We need folks that are passionate about real change to step up and ensure that we are heard as different communities. So thank you so much for that. I really do appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much. And there's a number of comments regarding Minnesota nonprofits, the Council of Nonprofits, community, and different links in there. I will also say Propel Nonprofits is a great resource for folks in the Twin Cities areas. I also do want to acknowledge, Andrea, thanks for sharing the mental health support line, and as well Alex for providing a link to supporting Black-owned businesses in the Twin Cities. That's definitely something we want to send out as well. I'm not seeing any other questions here, Irma, so feel free to continue.
I think, oh, go ahead, Monica.
Thank you, Irma. I said I was going to touch on to a question, what are the efforts to Lake Street reconstruction? And I mentioned Lake Street Council, but I did not mention a sensitive topic. I am not the city of Minneapolis a spokesperson to begin with, but I am also a resident of the city of Minneapolis, and I live 14 blocks from Lake and Hiawatha, and I worked 10 years on Lake Street, exactly across the street from Mercado Central. So our emotions are all over, and so some of you probably saw a Star Tribune article today. I have not seen it myself, but it says that the city had said that $55 million is needed to reconstruct and rebuild the damages on Lake Street. I don't know if the Star Tribune also lists out the assessments that the city had not gone through yet, but the city came up with that number just very preliminary, and there are some assessment that had not been made. There is a group of Latino leaders that are pushing for a different number, and it's a number towards, I personally think it's the right one. But I want to please you know that the city of Minneapolis during the weekend had different departments starting a damage assessment or an assessment on the inventory. That was the sense of urgency we all had, and to come on Monday, got together and find out that we were more than one doing that assessment. So we had to pull on hold of, hey, wait. Let's unify all those assessment data that had been started. And that took us a little bit longer than we thought. So, but we are still working on it. And I, under my capacity, which is not the hugest, but I could perhaps ask for some change. I might not do the change myself, but I could ask for some change. We are doing our best to get the best assessment on the damages on Lake Street. It is just absolutely our best interest and everybody's best interest for the cities around us, for the whole Minnesota. Some of the, especially Latino businesses on Lake Street, we're actually vendors of greater Minnesota area. And so they have also been affected by all this. So I wanted to offer that we're working on getting those numbers the correct as possible. So we asked for federal money, we asked for state money, and we the work has just started, because then allocated that money and making sure that that money gets into the hands of the right community organizations and business support organizations is also a work. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. I think that's really important to share. I think it's been, we haven't as many different neighborhoods impacted by what has been happening to different business owners and neighborhoods. There hasn't really been time to do a thorough assessment. And so the amount that currently came out in the Star Tribune wouldn't even cover a block. We're talking about damage to, in Lake Street alone, it's about 230 different businesses that are either damaged or have been completely destroyed. And so we know that that number is higher. However, it takes a long time to be able to have those accurate figures and know that we are working with the city of Minneapolis, with Lake Street Council, to ensure that we are doing assessments on that, but it's going to take more time to come up with a number, but I totally agree with you, Monica, that is a very small number and not one that is accurate. And on behalf of Latino Lead, with a coalition of all the business owners, Lake Street Council, we are, like we mentioned before, creating a letter for elected officials to ensure that Lake Street is heard, and that Lake Street, to ensure that we have funding for our business owners. In addition to that, we want to make sure that we don't lose Lake Street, right? This is about repairing, not replacing. We know that this will be a moment where folks might want to come into our community and buy the different businesses, and we are also urging our business owners to stay put, because we want to make sure that we see Lake Street as it was before, and not a new gentrified location for businesses that are not part of our community. So thank you, Monica, for shedding light on that, and know that we are working to make sure that folks have what they need. But right now, numbers are really up in the air, and we don't have an accurate estimate of what that would mean. But at least we want to get the elected officials to listen to the needs now and really prioritize not only Lake Street, but also North Minneapolis and St. Paul in the Midway area that have been impacted by a lot of the things that have been happening in the past 2 weeks. Do we have one more question here? I am looking at time.
No other questions. Looks like a lot of resources. It does look like we have a question from Rodolfo. I have been contacted by people living in Latin America who are interested in supporting the rebuilding of affected businesses in Minneapolis. Where to direct them?
Go ahead, Monica.
Thank you, Rodolfo. Thank you, Irma. Well, you can send them to me, but for sure I will redirect them to other organizations. And also, so helping in what capacity, that will be something I would be interested, because if it is monetary, send them I can send them the links for them to make donations. But Rodolfo, you can send them to me.
Wonderful. And I want to be sensitive of time, but if we have time for one more question, how do we ensure that Black and Latino contractors have the opportunities to help rebuild communities? Again, if you have any other questions, please send them over to Irma or myself, but do we have a moment to answer that question? How do we ensure that our Black and Latino contractors have opportunities to help rebuild communities?
Thank you so much. I will take 30 seconds. I will make sure that our office is committed to, as the target market program at the City of Minneapolis, our procurement program, that we have our minority group or minority businesses in our handy list to do contracts with them. And if you know, or you are minority business owners, please register with the target market program. That's the easiest way for you to get some bids.
I want to also add to that, as the Chamber of Commerce is working with the Department of Administration, and one of the seminars or workshops that we're putting together is about minority certification. I think it's very, very important for the near future that we have more Latino businesses certified to work or bid with government projects, with corporations, and that's a very, very important point. And again, please visit our website. You'll find in our calendar the dates and the times for those webinars, and we're partnering again with the Department of Administration on that.
Thank you. And again, thank you all so much for being part of this very important conversation, and to bring conversations that really unite us. And so thank you again so much for thinking not only about what our Latinx community is experiencing, but making sure that we are also thinking about how do we do this in a way that is in conjunction with other communities and together. And the last thing that I'll say is, is, again, today is also a hard day. Today is the memorial service of George Floyd, and so we are getting off in time, and I highly encourage you all to be part of that today, in solidarity with his family, in solidarity with the whole state of Minnesota. Again, we want to make sure to share that we are working on ensuring that justice is being brought to his family, and also that systems need to be changed for all of our communities to actually thrive. This is a time to stand together. This is a time to unite. And our communities are resilient. And so I want to leave it with that sentiment, that even though we are in pain, even though many are hurting, know that we are also mobilizing. Know that there are amazing, amazing folks working, and a lot of you all on this call too, that are working to make sure that no one is forgotten, no family is left out. And even though we are still grieving, we also have to begin the conversation of how do we strategize and rebuild, especially in the areas of Minneapolis and St. Paul. And so thank you for standing strong, and know that we are here for you as Latino Lead. And thank you so much for being part of this conversation. Any questions that you have, please do reach out to us. We are more than happy to hear of other ways that we can be there for you as community members, but also as Latino Lead members. Muchas gracias, estamos en contacto, y se me cuidan.
Bye.
Chao.
Bye, everybody.